Hey there, friend. Zach here. The dust has settled. It's been about a week since E3 concluded, and there's been a bit of an issue. The Pokemon community is not too happy. I myself being one of those members, and we are not that happy about the same exact issue. And I want to go over that today. Just kind of give a week later update. How am I feeling after a week of hearing the news of what I'm going to be discussing. So, if you haven't been keeping up, in one of the Nintendo Treehouse events for their E3 Direct, Junichi Matsuda had announced that for Pokemon Sword and Shield, in terms of Pokemon Home, which is a new Pokemon transferring software that you'll be able to use on your smartphones, you can transfer Pokemon from the 3DS games up to now. You can just transfer them, kind of an alternative to Pokemon Bank, think of it that way. But he announced that for Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, you'll only be allowed to transfer Pokemon from Pokemon Home to Pokemon Sword and Shield if they already are in the Galar Pokedex. Now what that means is that, let's say you have a Charmander and you want to transfer him over from your Pokemon Home to Pokemon Sword and Shield. The problem with that is that Charmander is not in the Galar Pokedex, which means you will not be able to transfer him over to Pokemon Sword and Shield because he's not in the Galar Pokedex. This has upset the Pokemon community greatly, myself included, and there's a few reasons for it. Every game before Pokemon Sword and Shield, every mainline Pokemon game, has had the National Dex included. Pokemon Sun and Moon has had the National Dex. Pokemon X and Y had the National Dex. Even games back on the DS, Pokemon Platinum, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. It's really upsetting to kind of see it be taken away. A week later, my opinion has not changed. I believe that it was a little unnecessary to not include the National Pokedex, mainly because the developers should know that this is something that we wanted. And they said, and now they gave some pretty decent reasonings. They have said that it's to make sure that they can put more time into high quality animations, but the animations I've seen they look the same as the previous installments on the 3DS. So that really hasn't changed, and maybe I might be wrong. I'm sure in the future maybe they will change it. But as of right now, it doesn't look any different. They also said that it would be a lot of work, and I agree with that one there. It would be a lot of work to insert every Pokemon, because now they're above, like 800 of them. They're above 800 Pokemon that they have to put in Sword and Shield. And that is a lot of work that you do have to put into making sure that they transfer over to the games nicely, especially if you're going to be transferring them from your Pokemon Home application. So now, here we are today. What has changed? Has the Pokemon community's opinion changed on this whole entire debacle that's going on, or have they stayed the same, relatively? They've stayed the same. If you go on Twitter, there's actually a hashtag movement going on right now, Bring Back National Pokedex, and if you go into any one of Pokemon's tweets, you're gonna see over 100 of them in the responses. I guarantee it. There's just so many of them. And I really would like to see the National Pokedex in the game. Maybe they could go with the route of, in the future, adding updates to Pokemon Sword and Shield in, like, say, maybe add different waves of new Pokemon into Sword and Shield as time goes on after the game's release. Because eventually you will get all the Pokemon in Sword and Shield from every region. It'll take some time, but there's one issue with that. Let's say you want your Chimchar to be in Pokemon Sword and Shield. Okay, well, he's not in the Galar Pokedex. Okay, fine. So I'll just wait for a future update where Chimchar will be added. Wave 1 comes out, no Chimchar. Alright, fine. Maybe Wave 2. Wave 2 comes out, no Chimchar. Alright, well, maybe Wave 3. Wave 3 comes out, no Chimchar. See, it's so random. Any Pokemon could be added in any wave. And the problem would be is that you could potentially be waiting quite a few months for your favorite Pokemon to be added into the game. So that's the one issue I can think of when it comes to that. Another thing that people were maybe recommending is delay the game to, put more time into bringing the National Pokédex back. I agree. That would probably be the smartest decision, but the thing is that Pokemon has already been a yearly franchise. I don't really see them breaking the tradition to do that. And I think it would also upset a lot of fans who have been relying on the whole yearly release schedule for Pokemon. But I myself, I would like a delay. I love the idea of delays for video games in order to give them more time to be perfected, instead of just rushing out a product that turns out to just be kind of like mediocre and not exactly the best it can be. I also heard a few ideas to maybe even, okay, I haven't heard this idea too much, but I've definitely heard it. Scrap the whole game entirely. No, we're not going to do that. People have already put their pre-orders in for Sword and Shield. We are not going to scrap the games. That is out of the question. I also heard that it might be a wise idea to kind of maybe decrease the animation quality. Not necessarily. I mean, just keep it the way it is. Let's face it, it looks the same as it's been for Sun and Moon, X and Y, all the previous games beforehand. And with all this going on, it also brings up a huge issue for Pokemon Home. If you have Pokemon Bank, unless Pokemon Home is cheaper, there's really no reason to get it. Because you can't transfer any of your Pokemon over from Pokemon Home into Sword and Shield. And the same would go for Bank, so there's absolutely no reason to have it, because Pokemon Bank acts as the same as Pokemon Home. So the only reason you might justify picking it up is if Pokemon Home is a cheaper service than Pokemon Bank. Now, the one thing I do want to point out that I have seen, unfortunately, that I absolutely cannot tolerate is the fact that people are threatening Matsuda. Yes, that is correct. You heard me right. People are actually threatening Matsuda on a personal level, and that is absolutely unacceptable. Listen, the man is already pouring his heart and soul into this game. He wants to make it the best it can be. Don't get me wrong. I agree that the reasons are kind of iffy in terms of why the National Dex is not being added into Pokemon Sword and Shield, but do not threaten the man for not including this. That's unacceptable. He's trying his best. If there was a way to add the National Dex into the game at its current state, I'm sure he would do it. I believe there's a way to do it. I just don't think he's found it yet, personally. I just do not think he's found it yet. Same as before, though, the game is scheduled for the mid-November release, so I guess we will just have to wait and see what ends up happening for Pokemon Sword and Shield. I know sometime next month in July they're going to have a kind of a showcase in Japan. I can't remember the name exactly, but basically where Matsuda and his team are going to kind of discuss more about Pokemon Sword and Shield. I think they're going to kind of go over more detail of the things we already know for the game, but who knows? We may see some new information there. But some of the positives for Sword and Shield that people have been loving so far, the number one positive, and I have to agree, that I love about Sword and Shield currently is the one and only Wooloo. Wooloo, Wooloo, Wooloo. Wooloo. That is the best Pokemon I have ever seen. It's adorable, it's lovable, and its description is just the cutest thing I've ever read. It escapes from trouble by rolling out of the scene. I love that. It's adorable. Another thing that I feel a lot of other people are excited for is the Wildlands. I love the idea of having an open world Pokemon game. I'm really curious to see where that goes. And random encounters are not the only way of catching Pokemon, because in the Wildland you saw roaming Pokemon that you can go and find. I love that feature about Pokemon Let's Go, so I'm really excited to see if they expand more upon that and add more Pokemon that you can find roaming around the Wildland that you can go and catch. That would be awesome. And maybe for shinies too, you could also spot a shiny in the distance that you want to go and grab. That's really cool. Raid battles are also a really hype feature for Sword and Shield. I'm kind of iffy on the whole Dynamaxing thing, especially considering that they took out Mega Evolutions and Z moves. That's another thing that people have been criticizing Pokemon Sword and Shield about, is the deduction of Mega Crystals and Z moves. Okay, I'm not going to say anything about that because I love Mega Evolutions, and the fact that they are taking them away really upsets me, but I don't want to go too long about that. So yes, Pokemon Sword and Shield are very polarizing right now. They're actually the most hated games of E3. I would have expected that from a Pokemon title, honestly. You would think that, you know, all this hype surrounding Pokemon would make it one of the most anticipated games of E3, but it's funny how one little announcement, one tiny little announcement, can end up turning the whole entire community around. Things need to be fixed. And those fixes need to happen soon. Because if I want to see Pokemon Sword and Shield succeed, more fan service has to be done. It's the only way. Nintendo has to listen to their fans. They did listen to their fans for Mario Maker 2. There was an outcry for having the feature to play with your friends online, because before this was announced, you could only play it with random players online. But the fans let Nintendo know that they wanted to play with their friends online. They demanded that they play with their friends online. And it happened. So, summary of the story, it's perfectly fine to voice your opinion. I have voiced my opinion in this video. I encourage you to voice your opinion as much as possible. Do not threaten any developers. It is not a personal issue. I do not want to see any threats, personally. Voice your opinion, do not threaten, and just wait for the future. Because it may be a bright one. Who knows? We will just have to wait and see. Alright, thank you so much for watching. That is going to do it for this week's video. Same as always, I have another video planned out for next week that I encourage you to stick around and check out. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.